Hi, and welcome to Heart-Centered Success. I'm your host, Diane Hayworth, and I am excited today to welcome two of my very best friends in the world. We're going to be looking at the question, what is heart-centered success? Immediately to my left is Sherry Goodwin. Sherry is a strategist and leadership coach. Sherry, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
And here's my friend, Marianne Clyde. Marianne is a licensed marriage and family therapist. So thank you for being here. I'm really excited to have you both. And I'm excited that you're here joining us today too. If you all are like me, I was wondering when I first came up with this idea of heart-centered success, what the heck was heart-centered success? I didn't know, but I knew what I felt it was. When I sent you that email that said, hey guys, be on this little TV show with me, and it's about heart-centered success, what immediately came to your mind?
I just said yes because I wanted to be with you.
Sounds like a party.
Good answer.
Diane.
But when you thought about it, what did heart-centered success, what kind of images came up for you, or what did it mean?
Yeah, so for me, it was really all about passion and really about living in accordance with your values and what you find to be true, and also working in that space.
Yep.
So as much as possible, bringing your heart, your full self into your relationships, your work, and service to the world.
Oh, perfect. What about you? What did you think?
Just how to be authentic and live your truth and your best life from within. You know, because I know whenever I'm concerned about, I need support and encouragement, you are the two I always think to go to because I know that's where you come from. So, authentic. So let's be authentic today. How's
Well,
that?
we're gonna do the best we can. I know when I was first talking about success in general, it occurred to me that success changes moment to moment sometimes. Do you know what I mean? We think of overall success, but you can have a successful luncheon, you can have a successful TV shoot, you can have a successful meal. That changed things a little bit to me, and also trying to be more present moment to moment and how that related to success. What occurred to me was when I looked back, the times where my actions were fueled by my passion, that's when magic happened. And to me, that's where this idea of heart-centered success came from. Like you said, it's a mind, body, spirit thing. It just envelops everything. So let's talk about that. One of the things that I know we all do is consciously connect to that inner divine. To me, that's where that heart part is, and that's where the success comes from. So one of the things I really want to make sure our audience gets today is some insight on how different people connect to inner divine. So Sherry, what do you do to just stay connected to that inner source of wisdom?
Yeah, and it's such a big question, and it's such an important question, and it's a daily thing for me because I can wake up and be like, you know, so many things going on, and oh no, and I'm like, well, hold on, you know, I'm supposed to be grounded and all of this. So the first thing I do, because I actually can't, I love meditating, but I can't meditate right away because I'm usually a little bit fired up. I get out of bed fired up. So gratitude for me is the first thing that I go to. It's just right away, before my feet even hit the floor. That's the first thing. And then the second thing for me is movement. It's really important for me to kind of dispel some of that physical energy and then land in a place where I can actually meditate and connect to the source, higher power, whatever you want, of my dog, I don't know, whatever it is that gives me that sense of just absolute peace and certainty.
Yeah, and that's a daily practice for you?
A daily practice, yeah.
Perfect. What about you, Marianne? When you think of, well, when you're instructing people, because I know you speak in front of audiences, you are giving them some tips on how to connect to that inner divine. How do you do that?
And so important because, like you said, not everybody's ready to meditate. When I teach people, it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, once or twice a day. That's what, and they all kind of look at me like, yeah, not me, I don't have that time. But any moment that you feel stress or you have a minute to think, just to breathe in, hold it for a second, and breathe out. it helps you remember that you are connected to that seed within you that's connected to all that is one with God, who's creative and loving and joyful. And when you connect to that, that's your true nature. And so I encourage people just to take a second to, that's why it's tattooed on my wrist, that just breathe, that if they just breathe it in and take a moment, they'll remember that they're connected to all that is, and that's when they're the happiest and the most productive and the most successful.
And the most present.
Exactly.
And the most present. That really connects you to whatever you want to call it. To me, it's that creative, expansive, loving intelligence. Rather, we call it God, universe, whatever it is. It really doesn't make any difference. But when you get centered in that place, that really is where the magic happens, I think.
That's right.
For anybody. Being around small children, it's just so incredible, and animals as well, just to see how present, focused they are, and how those little successes and how much they celebrate everything that happens. Now, both of you ladies are Amazon best-selling authors. You run businesses. You are very active in the community and with charities. I know, because I'm friends with you, that you use that inner wisdom across all of those things and with your families as well. How'd you learn to trust it? That's a good question. How did you learn to trust that inner wisdom? Mary Ann, what do you think?
I think that's a choice. That's a choice that I know I'm one with God, and that whenever I connect to that, He's able to just flow. When I doubt, when I'm afraid, when I am self-conscious, when I am hating somebody or whatever, I know that's like sticking a monkey wrench in that flow, and so it can't happen. So that's why I take the time to breathe, clear out, and it's a decision, I think. I just know that I'm one with God.
Now that's where you are now.
Yeah.
How'd you get there? Because I think a lot of people in the audience may not be there quite yet. Do you remember some of the steps that helped get you there?
Yeah, I guess just over, raised in a Christian home, made a decision to trust Christ, made my counseling practice a Christ-centered counseling practice, and then understand that that lingo sometimes makes people feel shut out. So what if I'm not a Christian? Or what if I don't believe exactly as you do? And I thought, well, that doesn't change God.
Right.
God doesn't care if you're Buddhist or Jewish or Muslim or Christian. We're all one.
Right.
We're all connected. We believe different ways maybe. But so as I learned to meditate, as I learned to trust that Christ in me, the hope of glory, that's Christian lingo, but it also works if someone's not a Christian, they just know God is within them, empowering them. Does that make sense?
It does.
And so as I lived in Japan for over 8 years, practiced Zazen meditation, practiced some Japa meditation, and some other kinds of meditation that just learned, they're all very similar. And so I just became very inclusive in the way I think about, I'm just connected to all things. And God is connected to all things. So you're stuck with me. Hey, baby.
You're a reflection of us, aren't you?
There you go.
What about you, Sherry? How did you learn to trust that inner? Because,
gosh.
You've got all that work with the animals, and that's a beautiful reflection of spirit, too, isn't it?
Yeah. So for me, it had nothing to do with religion. I was raised Jewish, very, very Reformed Jewish. We were not even going to synagogue or temple or whatever for a variety of reasons. We had no money, we couldn't, it was a whole thing. So I had this whole story in my head about lack and not being good enough. And however, within all of this, the thing that gave me the most solace and the most peace was being in nature. Always, even when I was a little kid, my parents were like, where is she? Where is she? Where's she? I'm in a tree, or I'm out in a bush somewhere, or I'm with a dog, or some other kind of thing. So what happened for me, even I remember so vividly when I was about 5 years old, and this was back when we didn't have these helicopter parents or whatever, I was laying in a field. My mother's a wonderful parent. I was laying in a field somewhere without my mother, just in case everybody's
she's a wonderful
my
parent.
mother's fabulous. And I was laying down on my back in this field, and the grass was all around, and I'm looking up at the sky. I still remember it like it's today, and I felt so connected. I just felt the earth, and I felt the plants, and I felt safe, and I felt fat, and I'm by myself. And these big, tall grass, and it was just the most magical feeling. So I'm always looking for that feeling. And that, for me, is the oneness. And I call it God. I'm not a super religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person. And so that, for me, is that feeling of oneness that you just described. Is that's how I connect.
So your ability, or the way you learn to trust that inner feeling, is because you physically experienced it.
Yeah, and your point about trust. So for me, it was the truth. Now, when you're 5, you don't know what the truth is. And
Actually, you probably
I mean,
know more.
You probably do.
You're probably
That's a
better
good
at
point.
it than you are at 50.
But you don't call it that.
Right.
You know, then you spend the rest of your life looking for the same thing that you found when you were 5. But you know the feeling. And so for me, I'm a very kinesthetic person, and I connect at a feeling level, and then I just follow that vibe wherever it takes me.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. Wonderful. I think all of those are wonderful points. For me, it really was a process, because I was raised in a Christian home. We weren't the best Christians, I have to say. We really weren't the best. But, I mean, you know, we showed up
And
for
it was
most.
all about competition,
Yeah,
too.
we showed up most
There's
of
a
the
judgment
time.
here.
We showed up most of the time, but we weren't the best. And I think that I had some skewed ideas of what that inner wisdom was. And just because of my own personality and nature, I kept thinking that all of the real truth was outside of myself. Right? It was my parents, or it was the minister, or it was the town official, or my boss. So it was quite a process for me to learn to trust that interior wisdom. And I was a lot older than 5, or decades past that. And it really was a process, and that's one thing I've learned with dealing with my own clients. There isn't any one right or wrong way. Just the way that you connect, the way that you get to that heart-centered place, what you think of success, it's really kind of individual, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
At least I think it is.
Well, you know, I hear so many people that say, why did God let that happen? I'm praying to God to bless me. I want God to do this. I want God to do that. And it's very external and very other-directed. So once I started really experiencing that concept, which is very biblical, Christ in me, the hope of glory, he's inside of me. And so when I started applying that, it just made it very real. And that, so I can't wait for God to do something, because he's waiting for me so we can do it together. You know, it's sort of like, and I'm all about about establishing that internal locus of control.
Right.
I mean, that's what I teach people all the
Right.
time, is because when you're connected to that spirit, or the energy, or your creator, whatever you're calling him, or it, or whatever, that's when you're the most powerful. It's when you're in unison making that happen.
Because it's not the ego, is it? It's that divine self, and that, that's what my passion is, teaching people how to consciously connect to that interior divine place. I mean, it's that divine energy that runs through everybody, everything, flowers, nature. That's what you're reacting to, right? That's what that oneness is. At least that's what I think that is.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You all both have wonderful businesses. And I know that you've got various businesses, and you've had various businesses. Sometimes when we think about success, one thing that comes up for a lot of my clients is, I'm in this job, I want to do this, I'm afraid I won't be successful. I'm curious, what kind of thoughts were going through your head, I'll start with you, Sherry, when you decided to start your own business? Because you already had a very successessful job, right, where you were employed.
Yeah.
So
Don't remind me.
You had a paycheck.
I jumped off the cliff. Why did I do that again? Okay.
your husband's on the phone. No, I'm just kidding. What were you thinking? What were you thinking
Yeah,
when
what was I
you
thinking?
did that? What were you thinking?
So the question that drives me and always has driven me is really this one, and this is the one that I ask myself constantly, and it changes, the response changes, is where can I add the most value to the world? And I continue to ask myself that. I ask it regularly. And at the time, I had a fabulous job. I had a corner office, I had staff, I had bonus, I had all kinds of fantastic things. I mean, went autonomy, and I could work from home. Gee, why did I leave that? Anyway, apparently,
to be of greater value,
apparently,
to the world.
yeah. I needed to add more value somewhere else. But what really drove me was, okay, I kind of felt like I had hit the edge of that, and it was a wonderful place. But I felt like there was something else. And then, you know, people talk about the calling. So I had the calling, and the thing wouldn't shut up for years. It was calling and calling. So I finally literally dissected my life. So I have a master's in biology, and I've done people used to say, what are you going to do when, you know, you graduate from college? Because I had a double major in zoology and English. So like, oh, you're like Dr. Doolittle. Well, hey, you know, about 25 years later, not too wrong. So I just thought, what if I blended all of my passion, the things people tell me that I'm good at, the things that I know people need, and dissect my whole entire life and just pull that out there. And is there, it looked like a whole bunch of weird stuff, is there some kind of common theme that I could pull together that might be able to add value somewhere? I thought, well, why not? Why not? And it wasn't let's just do it. It was a calculated decision. Right. I had a year's worth of, I should have had 5 years worth, had a year's worth of savings of my salary, so I had to make sure that I wasn't going to do it just like that, because that's very dangerous. We have a lot at stake. And I did it.
And where would you say, you might have addressed this, but this idea of heart-centered success, this was this pull, this heart pull that was coming from you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a passion. So it really, it's in service to other, always in service to other. So what's my unique gift? And for me, and what I encourage everybody to do is peel into your heart, really get into that place. So heart-centered success. Success is not, in my mind, I mean, there's financial success, there's all these different ways you can define it, and a lot of folks get really tied up with, this is how much I make, therefore I'm successful, or this is how much I make, therefore I'm unsuccessful, therefore I'm unworthy, therefore I'm a schmuck, you know, or whatever the thing. You can go all the way down and tumult into the dirt with that. What I try to do is really disengage, decouple that. So what does success really look like from a heart space? And where do you feel that incredible satisfaction when you light up? And when I met both of you guys, I met you. You drew me in from some little face I saw of your ad somewhere. And you had these great little words. I'm like, who is that? That sounds so interesting. And it was with the Theta. And I said to myself, I just saw you vibed with me from the newspaper. I said, I need to meet her. And then we were in a lead share together, and I think I was behind you somewhere, and I kept feeling like this energy. I'm like, who is that? I need to get to know her better. But it's all coming from the heart, the power of the heart.
I'm thinking for me, that success has to do with feeling the joy, right? I think that certainly financial success is fantastic. That's wonderful. That keeps us doing what we're doing. Oh, that's wonderful. But when you have success, heart-centered success to me has a lot to do with accomplishing service, whatever your goals are, but just doing it with such joy and bliss and really fulfillment, feeling that. What about you, when you started your own business? Because I know you hopped around, like you said, to Japan, so you were going back and forth. What kind of thoughts were in your head when you started your own business?
Well, and that was way before that, actually, because my most precious thing in my life is my kids. And so I had gotten divorced and remarried and was concerned about their well-being. And I went to graduate school to become a therapist and also to heal my own wounds and make sure my kids were okay and how to handle that. And so then when I learned how to do therapy and so forth, I was convinced that, because I was a stay-at-home mom before that, as much as I could have been, and when I got divorced, I had to get a job. But then I had the option to work my hours around my kids if I was the boss, and frankly, I don't like to be told what to do. There's that little piece. And so I have started counseling practices wherever we've lived, and even in Japan. and done that kind of stuff when I've traveled around the world. But it's always been wrapped around how can I be available for my family at the same time, and also knowing that I had gifts and skills and talents to use, it had to go together. And so that's what I think makes my heart-centered success, is that I feel maybe it's not balanced. Maybe that's not what I feel. But that I juggle it pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, that I can keep my family a priority and I can be of value to the world.
Express and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Well, I know that this is a question that I get a lot from my clients and people that just say to me, how do I start my own business? How do I do that? I've got somebody I'm working with right now, actually. And I know for me, I had a wonderful job. I had a corner cube.
Yep.
I had a steady paycheck. I had dental. I mean, it was great. And I just kept feeling, you're talking about this little pull, this little voice, there's more, there's different. And it was a wonderful job. Those people there are fantastic. The work was great. My time there was just done. So, and it really was this pull. That's really what it was. It was just this pull. It was very subtle at first, and then it got very loud, and it didn't necessarily make sense when I did it. However, I realized I was no longer being as effective and as good an employee as I wanted to be for these wonderful people that I was working for. I was doing them a disservice. I really needed to at least try this. So for me, the heart-centered success there was really just following my heart when it made no sense to do it. It really didn't. I figured, though, that if the pull was that strong and it had gone on for many months, there had to be something inside that knew more than I did. I sure hoped so.
Yeah.
'Cause I sure didn't know what I was doing, but it seemed to work out okay. So I know that many of you might be wondering, when is it time to me to make a change? I don't know if you agree with me, but I say listen to your heart as well as your head. You want things to, I think that when you marry your actions to that passion and purpose of your heart, that's when things really happen really well. Now, we all have businesses that we love. However, all of us have had times that were not so great. And since I think we can't talk about success unless we talk about failure and what we think about failure. And do we even believe in failure? I mean, do we even believe in failure? Mary Ann, what do you think?
Well, actually, just like I don't really believe in coincidences, it's sort of, I used to think in those terms. I used to think in success and failure, making enough money, not making enough money, doing it right, doing it wrong. But I think the more connected I get and the more in the flow I feel, it's that, you know that story of the old Chinese farmer that would get good news and the whole town people would say, aren't you happy, aren't you happy? And you go, maybe yes, maybe no. Because then something bad would happen and they would say, aren't you sad, aren't you sad? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. So my life sort of evolved around a maybe yes, maybe no sort of philosophy. And when something looks bad, it might just be that it's time for a transition, or it might just be, and I've started to notice those kind of signals, is when something's not working, it might feel bad, but it's what is God trying to say to me? That what do I need to hear? What do I need to change? What do I need to reevaluate? And it's just gotten more and more of a blessing all along the way. Yes, there's been times that appear high and appear low, appear happy and appear sad, appear tragic and appear, you know, and all those things have happened in, you know, in my businesses. Absolutely.
It's life.
And that's just it. We expect life to be rosy. You know, how could something bad happen if you're really on the right track? Well, you know, maybe yes, maybe no.
Sherry, what do you think about failure, or the idea of failure? Is there failure? Is there no failure? What do you think?
Well, I would feel that there's a lot of failure because I've felt a lot of failure in my life. Just in that, oh, I didn't do it the way I should have done it, or oh, what a mess, or oh, I completely screwed that up, or I didn't make the money I was supposed to or wanted to, or I'm in the trenches and now I've created this massive amount of debt. How the heck am I going to get out of this? What was I thinking? This is the stupidest thing. Or I wrote this proposal and it was fabulous and I got cut. I mean, a million times. You're kidding me? You cannot be,
Right.
first of all, you cannot be, I think, a human and get to at least my age and not have experienced those kinds of feelings. Whatever you choose to call it and however you choose to address it, I think is actually more important than labeling it
Oh, that's a great
as
point. Great
something.
point.
So for me, I allow myself the pity party, and I really would love to tell you that I say, oh, what could I learn from this? This is a fabulous opportunity for growth. No, I go into the pity party and I stomp around and I get mad, and then I can't hold on to that very long.
Right.
I have never been able to hold a grudge. I just can't, even since I was a kid. That negative energy, that kind of thing, it just doesn't work for me. So I allow myself the little pissiness or whatever, if you can say that, hopefully, you can edit it out. And then I kind of move on. And I do look for the learning, and I think the resilience piece for me is so much more important than the down in the dumps.
How do you get
It's the bounce out, and I'm such a half, what do you call it, glass full, half glass full person. Crazy optimist. I have to be. Even when I feel, even with the bank account says like nothing and the credit cards are maxed out, I'm like, I am so successful. I am so successful. And I really believe that because I feel that. Maybe I'm not so successful financially in this space right now, but look at the possibilities. But I'm also an entrepreneur, so there's kind of a mindset that you have to have there.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think I agree with elements of both of you. With as far as failure is concerned, I certainly used to think in black and white. If I don't make this much money, or I didn't get to this position, or this weight, or whatever it was, right, then I failed. And I was reminded just this week, actually, when I had some of those life things happening, of one of Louise Hay's quotes. Every experience is perfect for my growth.
Yes.
Now, as much as I love that, I thought, I don't want to hear that right now. Okay? I don't want to hear that right this second. I'm just going to, mine isn't as eloquently said as a pity party, but I just think the same way. I need to feel my feelings. I don't want to pretend they're not there, because that's usually an extra 10 pounds, right? So I'm not going to do that anymore. So I want to feel it, acknowledge it, and then there's my choice, right? Am I going to stay here in this little pity party sunk hole down in the bottom of the river wherever I'm drowning, or am I going to say, okay, I may not know why this happened right now. I may never know why it happened, but I know I've got a choice. I know that I've got a real cute little friend, and she is cute. She's like little. She's like little. My little friend Sharon, I don't know if you know her. She's in her 80s. And she's told me that the most fun about being her age is had the ability to go back and see how everything lined up. And just like, oh yeah, that's why, oh yeah, that's.
Wow.
So since she said that to me, I've noticed myself when people die, or there's a financial setback, or there's, just one of the million things that happen to us in life, right? You do have to deal with whatever you have to deal with, or I choose to deal with it, right? And then just trust that there is a bigger picture going on. And I go back to the Louise Hay thing once I calm down and realize, you know what, it's perfect for my growth. Do I choose to grow from it or not? Do I choose to grow from that or not?
I had somebody say to me this week, because she reminded me of you, because she said, all right, I'm into the mindfulness, I meditate, I get it, I get all your concepts, but I still want to smack somebody sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And I said, have you read Diane's book? And the whole point is, it's not that you don't feel those things. That's what makes us human, is those feelings and so forth. But the refrain from slapping someone,
that you choose.
You feel it, and then you breathe yourself through it, and then you resolve it. I think what you said is the resilience piece, that you bounce back faster. It's the choice to bounce back. And ultimately, yes, you might want to slap somebody less, or react a little less violently, but it's all this growth process. And if we become really, just let ourselves be ourselves and be human, it's okay. It's okay.
Especially being the divine part of the human,
Yeah.
as opposed to the ego part. Not that you're ever going to get rid of your ego, but that's something that just occurred to me. The more centered I am in that heart space, the less triggered I get by
Yes.
things that used to upset me. Now, still, when there's catastrophes and traumas, you know, you deal with those.
Right.
But what I have noticed is the more heart-centered I am, the more consistently I can stay in that space. The things that used to bother me, they just don't have that power over me like they used to.
Yeah.
They just don't, which is kind of refreshing.
Well, it is. It's
It is.
And it's
Yeah.
freeing, isn't
It's
it?
freeing.
move on a little bit.
Yeah, it's really freeing.
And somebody said to me the other day at a presentation, but what do you do if you get really scared? I mean, really scared.
Right.
Shoot, you know, like one of these shootings that has taken place. You're in the middle of a marathon and there's a bombing. You're you know,
hurricane.
a hurricane or an earthquake and my answer was pretty simple. It's whatever you have trained yourself to do. I mean, it's not always easy. It's not like you don't go, oh my gosh, you know, but you get right back to where you need to be and say, okay, what do I need to do now? What can I do now? And so if you've trained yourself to find that center place, whether it's through meditation or breathing or going into nature, you train your brain and your brain actually changes so that it's much easier to respond to a crisis. And there's been, oh my gosh, so many around lately.
Well, and we're so much more aware of them, right? Because of social
It's on
media,
the-
but that's a great point. You train yourself the same way that you train for a competition or you train for anything else. You train yourself to be heart-centered. You choose that.
That's right.
I think that's, and that has been absolutely one of the smartest things I've ever done. I don't know about you all, but I certainly, when I was your age, meaning the 5-year-old, I was not cognizant enough to go, I'm one. If I'd been laying in that field, it would have been, I feel the ants, there's a spider crawling up my leg. What if there's a snake? Oh my God. That's like,
Yeah.
I was not that kid.
Yeah.
I was the scared kid.
She's the nature kid,
Yeah,
right?
I was not that kid. But eventually being able to be more heart-centered and looking, to me, if I was laying in the grass, that'd be success. Just like laying there. That would be such success for me. Right, I mean, like, I'm not even, I wish I was kidding. I am so not kidding. But that would be success.
Yeah.
And that leads me to what I want to talk about now, and that is a guiding life philosophy. Because I think that has to do with this heart-centered place, and again, what we think of as success, rather it's financial success, if it's joy, if it's being with your family, whatever that is. So, Sherry, what would if you had a guiding life philosophy, which I'm sure you do, what would it be?
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, that's
sure
a
you do.
big question. You know, it's a guiding life philosophy. Really, for me, and there's probably some really smart thing that I'm not going to say right now, but I'm going to just tell you what I feel, and I really believe this is that you create your own experience. You create your own experience moment to moment to moment, regardless of external forces and all of these other things. So. You choose your response, you choose your path, you choose your action, you choose your mental state. And we may get triggered, come back. And the practices that you talked about earlier, that's what's so important, because it's not necessarily innate or intuitive to do that. The fight or flight, the limbic brain, I work with horses all the time, they're really fast on that. And they show you really, really quickly what it looks like to be really scared and also to recover very quickly. And it's dramatic. I mean, you can have like a complete meltdown. I call it freak face, when their eyes get huge, their veins pop out, and they stop breathing, and you're like, get out of the way. You know? And then 5 minutes later, you could be riding in the arena, and they're all perfect, and you win a class or whatever. So just because this one thing happened doesn't mean that is who you are or how you need to be for an extended period of time. It's just in that moment. At the next moment, you can choose to be something different. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. I have this one horse that I've learned a ton from animals, as you guys know. So my horses have taught me, and my dogs have taught me so many things. But one of the little sayings I have from one of them that I've raised since birth is, just because I'm crazy today doesn't mean I'll be crazy tomorrow or in 5 minutes.
Or in 5
Or in
minutes.
5 minutes.
I hope my husband has
it just
heard that.
flips, right? Yeah, it's for us too.
We're gonna get a T-shirt.
It's okay. I had a moment, and now I'm having another moment.
I'm having a moment. There's your T-shirt.
There we
Just
go.
having a moment.
But isn't that true? I love that. I've always thought that your external world is a reflection of your internal world. So the more you're going to crazy town inside, the more you see that outside, right?
Yeah.
So when you can get back to that heart-centered place, breathe through it, and look at things a little differently, your external circumstances do seem to change, when really it's just been your mindset.
Absolutely.
So Marianne, what about your guiding life philosophy? What would you say it would be?
I think what I remind myself, I am whole, perfect, and complete, lacking nothing. And
I love that.
And again, that's got to be internal, because it might not be that way out here, in
Right.
what'd you call it, crazy town?
Crazy town,
right.
yeah.
But yeah, because
Crazy
we've all
town.
been there,
Yep.
But I am whole, perfect, and complete, and I am an eternal being in a physical body,
Right.
and so this is just a suit I'm wearing, and
It's a nice suit.
Oh, thank you.
It's your costume for this
It's
life.
my costume for this life.
Yeah.
That's right. That's my T-shirt. It's my costume for this life. But the whole point is, this is just an experience. And if the stock market crashes, or there's a hurricane and I have to, revamp all my stuff, or if I lose someone I love, that, while it's heartbreaking in the flesh, there's that truth that even though the pain is still there, the truth is that we're really always connected. And it's not like we'll meet again, but it's just they've kind of stepped into the next room. And it becomes a much less traumatic place than it has to be, because I'm whole, perfect, and complete. So are you.
Oh, good.
So are you. Yeah, I like your suit too. and it's just they're just in another plane or another lifetime, and so so it's nothing can destroy me.
Not the real you.
Never.
It just gave me chills.
Not the real you.
But that's true. The Bible says the gates of hell won't prevail against it. But it's that nothing can destroy me is just a secular way to say that. But that's the absolute truth. Can I be injured in the flesh? Absolutely. Can my feelings be hurt? Yes. So be nice to me. but really.
Yeah, it's that divine part. I tell my
there's
clients,
nothing that can go wrong.
nothing. I tell them, you can never be more treasured, loved, or adored than you are now.
Yeah.
Not in 50 pounds, not if you have that other job, not if you're married, not if you have children, not if you don't have children. It doesn't have anything to do with that, does it?
No.
It really doesn't. It's just the truth of our divine nature,
Yeah.
however you want to say it.
Yeah, I still like the kids to call me. I mean, there is that.
Call your mother.
Call your mother,
Yeah,
right?
Call your mama.
Call your mother. Well, as far as a guiding life philosophy, I know that for me, even when I didn't really know what it meant, I always embraced the idea of love. And I mean the divine love, the universal love as a creative, expansive, intelligent energy. That's what I'm talking about with love. So I guess for a philosophy, when I get in those places where I'm upset, where life is not going the way that I thought it should, because obviously I know everything and it just wasn't going according to my plan, right? Once I calm down, after I get out of my own pity party, I try to ask myself this question: what does love look like here? Love for myself, love for everyone involved, and more importantly, how does love move me forward? That, I find, takes me out of the ego, takes me out of the, well, she should have done this, and I can't believe he did that, right? Because in actuality, whoever the other players in your little chaotic play are, they're just doing the best they can. They're just doing whatever they thought they needed to do based on their own traumas and fears and experience. That's really, we're all just doing the best we can. So for me, if we can fall back and just ask ourselves, what does love look like here, and how does love move us forward?
Yeah.
You know, to me, that that is a wonderful way to look at things.
Agreed.
Do I always do it? No, I don't.
beautiful.
Do I always try? Most days I do. Most days I try. At least.
Didn't you say that, you know, just because you're invited to a drama doesn't mean you have to buy tickets to the show?
I
Isn't
did
one
say
of
that.
the-
I did
great.
say that. Just because. Dadgummit, what was that good?
That
It
was
was really
good.
good. I even
That's
put it
a
on
good one.
Facebook.
You
It was
did
so
put it
good.
on
You did,
Facebook.
yeah.
I'm sure I reposted it.
Yeah.
It is-
Yeah, just thank you. I think you did repost it. Yeah, yeah. It was. Dadgummit.
Just because sounds like second syllable.
Okay.
Something like that.
Boom.
Something like that.
about just because you there's drama. Just because there's drama all around you, you don't have to buy a ticket to the show.
There you go. Woo.
And I'm going to copyright that, so don't write that down. Hope you're writing everything else down, but not that. Okay, so let me ask you this. Based on what we just talked about, your guiding philosophies, how does that influence, just give us a couple ideas, how does that influence maybe your health, maybe the way you work with your clients, with your business? How does that influence your everyday life?
So let's see. So you create your own experience in every moment, or whatever I said earlier.
It was brilliant.
Yes, thank you.
We're very self-supporting.
Guys rock. What was it again? What did I say? What was my life philosophy?
What'd you post on Facebook? Okay, go ahead.
So really, yeah, so for me, it's about, I think that shows up as being as present as possible in every situation. And then inviting my clients to also find that place of presence, you know, and I love your question of what does love look like in this situation, and how can that help move me forward. I think there's some really great action that can result from that, because there's a settling to it. And it's funny for me, when in my business, I used to be very, very much focused on the return on investment that folks would get, you know, hardline numbers. How many more clients did you get? How much more money did you make? How da-da-da-da. And what I was finding is that's great, but the comments back from my clients were, or testimonials, were really a lot around, I feel so much better. I feel aligned with my purpose. I feel... Yeah, right? So it was all in here, and I'm like, what's all that mushy stuff? I want numbers. Numbers. That's what needs to go on the website. I gotta have proof, you know? And I'm like, you know, but that's what it's all about, right? That's what we're talking about, is this connection point, this depth of meaning and connection and purpose, and just purpose, really feeling purposeful in your life. Apparently it's a gift.
Apparently so.
Apparently it's a gift, because for me, it's a daily thing. It's a daily choice. It comes with a lot of sacrifice, like anything else.
Right.
But I choose that, and I choose that. So I guess it's the presence is
that's how
how
you
that
live it out.
shows up one way. Yeah.
I love that. I also love the fact that there's lots of people talking now about experience economy. So even though someone may come to you and say, you know, I want X percentage of increase in my business, really it's the experience that they want. Do you know what I mean? The experience of working with you, the experience of what it feels like to do that, what they can do with that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me, that experience. They want an experience of you as a coach, you as a
well, that's
therapist
it.
and coach, you
Because
as a...
people say, you know, people might forget what you say,
Right.
but they'll never forget how you make them feel.
That's
so
right.
it's
That's
very
right.
experiential.
Now, with your guiding philosophy, how do you live that in your personal life, with your health choices, with your relationships? How does that influence that,
I
do you
think
think?
it's really important to remember what actually physically happens. I mean, you're the biologist, not me, but it's, you know, the adrenaline and the cortisol coursing around in your body creates an environment for sickness and disease and dis-ease. It creates an environment for cardiac problems, breathing problems, cancer, the common cold. You know, people that get sick all the time are very often very stressed. And really, really important, if you understand that this negative reaction, that anger reaction, that unforgiveness that you claim is your right to hang on to, and it is, that then you're making a choice to create a toxic environment in your body. And this is the only temple we have. And if you remember, I may hate that person right now. I may think I'm never going to forget that forgive that person right now. I might be really bitter right now, but you know, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to make myself sick. I want to kind of shake it off and move on with my life. That's not who I am. I am whole, perfect, and complete. And there's no room for extra adrenaline and cortisol unless I see a bear, which I have seen in my woods from time to time. And then you just walk a little faster.
Yeah.
Totally
But at
different situation.
Totally different.
Totally different.
But at the, you know, but the idea is I have to remember that I'm physically hurting myself. I'm not hurting you if I hold a grudge. You know, I'm not hurting you if I'm angry at you. I'm hurting me.
No, it's really interesting to me the way that these guiding philosophies, how we do use them in our everyday life.
Yeah.
I know when I made a switch to how am I going to be more loving, it was how am I going to be more loving to my body?
Yeah.
What am I going to eat differently? What am I? How am I going to move differently? That was really interesting because it almost happened not by mistake, but I didn't really notice it as much. I just noticed I was making some different choices with what I read, with what I watch, with where I go, with who I talk to, all of those things that help reinforce that loving energy. It's just really interesting to me how all of these things fit together. And actually, that's what I'd like to do the last few minutes we have together is one of the things that I want our audience to always have is some concrete tools so that you guys will know exactly. You'll have tools, techniques, maybe you'll know some habits, but something that will help redefine success for you and help you live a more heart-centered, successful life. So, Sherry, give me 3 habits or tips that you would give someone that would help them incorporate some of these things and come from a more heart center. Now, you talked about your morning routine. What else might you think about?
So the morning routine is really important. So there's kind of 3 areas that I like to focus on in my work, and I call it the fuel source, and that's the mindset, it's the body piece, it's water, you know, making sure that you've got that. And then there's having clarity of vision, clarity of what you want to see. So clarity of intent, setting an intention for each day, and set it lightly and detach from outcome. Because part of this,
very important.
right? So detach
Very
from outcome.
important.
So then there's the action piece. So there's a fuel, vision, and action piece, and in the middle there's a high impact zone. So always looking for that. So really being as clear as possible about, you know, what do I want today? So one of the questions I ask myself every morning as a business owner and doing a million different things are, what are the 3 most important things that I have to do today? 3 most important things. So my brain can kind of filter, and this is a biological thing too. You have your reticular activating system out there. It's trying to find stuff for you. So you might as well use it. You might as well put it to work and make it search for something. So what are those 3 things? And then that's good, so you know what to focus on. I think focus is really important, especially for anybody trying to work with, you know, so many people who are achieving big goals, trying to achieve big goals. That's really important. The other thing too is, for me, I like to kind of shake things up. So I have a little, this is a personal thing, but everybody has their own little thing. I have a little mini trampoline. I bounce around on that thing.
A little rebounder?
Yeah, a little rebounder. And I bounce like all the time on that thing because I'm old now and I've fallen off of horses a million times and I have joints and things and whatever, but that little dude, man, I can run on that, I can spin around. So what I'm doing there
Spin around.
Oh, you can work on it. I can't go fast spinning. You gotta be careful though, don't do it to work up to it because you can fall off and that would be bad.
I'll call you.
I'll make you, there's a disclaimer right over here.
YouTube it.
So, so the reason for that is I'm always looking to shift left brain, right brain, integrate the brain, you know, go in there because there's a whole neuroscience piece here and I want to optimize that. So jumping on the trampoline, there's something about that movement that, and then jumping to the right and then to the left, you can do one leg, you do the other leg, you know, all these different kinds of things. So for me, that's super important. I already mentioned the gratitude. And then, you know, about the intention, you know, hopefully those are some tools that'll be helpful for folks. Those 3 areas, but you have to do what's right for you. You know, what do you do to set yourself up for success each day? And for me, there's the practical, what are my 3 high impact actions, the whole thing on that. Getting myself mentally prepared. Oh, here's one other thing. What am I assuming about this? This is a question.
Great
so this is a
one.
question from Rosamund Stone Zander in The Art of Possibility. I love that book, great book. And what am I assuming? how else can I think about this? So, because our stories shape our action and our behaviors and our actions. So if you're looking at something like, I could never do, or I don't know, I can't call that, well, what am I assuming about this? You know, how else can I think about this? So it can create a little open space and be like, oh, wow, maybe that's possible. So those are some suggestions.
Great. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to discuss this is because, just like you said, everything's not attracted to everyone else.
Right.
So the more we give you options, you'll be able to choose something for you. Marianne, what are some of the things that habits, tools, techniques, what are some of the things that really help you live that heart-centered life?
I think it is, the gratitude thing is very important, and Sherry did teach me about the rebounder thing. And you go on the
coming over
rebounder and do little affirmations. I am amazing,
right,
you know, that kind of, it really makes it, you know, you only have to do it for a few minutes and
Yeah.
it helps. But I think if I could get everybody in the world to do this one thing, and that is to take a deep breath and detach for a moment before anything comes out of your mouth. Or before you post on Facebook.
Wouldn't that be a great idea?
Wouldn't that change the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. But that's just to give yourself that little space. You know, Viktor Frankl says between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies your freedom to choose your response. And therein lies your growth and your freedom. And so that one thing is that, which is why I have the Just Breathe on my wrist, is if you can just take a breath and step back for just a moment, it'll help engage your brain in a more responsive way instead of reactive way. And I do also notice that if I am getting, you can kind of feel the tension build up in you. You know, if I haven't exercised lately, or and I can feel it when I have to go out for a run. And remind me, when I say a run, I'm talking walk run. You know, it's just, this is not marathon
With those gorgeous
running.
dogs of yours.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a marathon. It's just a brisk walk, or a walk with the dogs, or get outside, get fresh air, move your body, because it just means I'm holding on to this adrenaline and cortisol, all those stress hormones, and I need to find a way to release them. And pretty much, and it's just, and then I have a phrase that, you know, I am amazing. You know, and it's just, when I trained for a marathon, I ran that first 5 miles for the very first time, and I hated running. Did I say hate? Hate. You know, but when I did that first, I came back to the house and just went, I'm amazing. I am amazing.
Absolutely.
And I remember that truly, while I say that as a joke, it's really the truth. You know, and it's and I've started getting cards from my kids and my husband saying, "You're so amazing." You know, and I thought, you have to train them. You have to train them to think properly. But really, but the breathing and detaching is the most important thing. It just is.
Well, I also love the fact that not only are you amazing, but I think it's important that we recognize when we do things that are outside of our comfort zone. And I think celebrating those things
Little
are,
victories.
even if little victories, big victories, whatever it is, maybe for some people just going out for a walk is a victory.
Right.
And you need to say that.
Yeah.
I know for me, I teach my clients what I call the 3 M's. And it's real similar to what you all do, it's in the morning. It's meditate, motivate, and move. So for me, my cat and I meditate together every day. And she gets really upset if she misses that, by the way. It's just, we get up and that's what I do. I start every day with meditation. That works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. But meditation absolutely grounds me in spirit, first of all. Then the motivate piece is I want to fill my brain with something motivational. So I read from A Course in Miracles, I read from Wayne Dyer, or some other kind of uplifting, inspirational book. That's the way I want to start my day. That's the way I want to start my day, certainly before I turn on the news. I want to start my day that way, right?
Yeah.
And movement for me is usually just some yoga exercises, going up and down the stairs. I walk by my rebounder every day, though.
Excellent.
So I might just pop on there tomorrow.
Just flip it
I
over.
want to see it turn around. Call me and let me know if you
Just
can
up
do
and
it.
down right now is going to be good. But those are some of the things that really help me get grounded at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
Because I find for myself, and everybody's different, but the way I start my day is the way the rest of the day goes for me.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that if I get off track at 2 o'clock, I can't get back on track. But I find it harder for me. So when I can start grounded in mind, body, and spirit with those 3 M's, that helps tremendously. Also, for me, I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist or anything else that ends with an ist, by the way. But having breakfast that has protein.
Yeah.
Having enough water, to me that really conducts the electricity in your body, right? The energy, you have to be hydrated to really help. I find that I even seem more intuitive. The healthier I am, the more hydrated I am. All of those things help. All of those things help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so any of those things I think would be wonderful ways to start a heart-centered practice. Now, before we finish today, I want to make sure that our audience knows how to get more information about you. Sherry, somebody wants to find out more about you and your wonderful work and what you do in the morning, jumping up and down. Where can they find that information? What's your website?
Yeah, so they can go to www.jaeger2.com, and that's JAEGER2.com.
Great. And Marianne?
And my website, I've got a couple of them, but the one right now is zentivity.guru, ZENTIVITY.guru. And that's about my book and these practices that I talk about.
Great, and we'll have that also in the credits at the end of this show.
Awesome.
As we're getting ready to finish up, I want to thank you all, of course, for watching. Thank you for being here. Is there anything else that you can think of that we might be able to give our audience as a little tip on how to live a heart-centered, successful life?
Have great friends.
I was just going to
Right?
say, if they can find 1 or 2 people like you guys are for me, and like we are for each other, that the same mindset, the encouragement, that not that you don't have bad days, but that I can trust you guys to come to you're my safe place, and in every way, and so that just means the world to me, and there's got to be some genuine people out there that support group. Very powerful.
Absolutely, and honest. I mean, that's one thing I do love about you two. There's lots of things, but they're happy to say, Diane, you're crazy. This is not going to work. You need to rethink this, chick. That's important.
Well, we think that's charming.
Yeah.
That is charming. It's charming. It's charming. Yes.
What about you?
Candor. No, I mean, I was tearing up because of that. Because really, it's waterproof mascara. But really, I think the most important thing is to align with those who are in your vibe, your heart center, and you know when they are and you know when they're not.
Yes.
And you have to be, all we have, our time and our energy is our most valuable resources. That's all we have. So we want to make sure we spend it with those who we love and with ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
And maybe when somebody ticks you off, you know, it's easier to say, that's them, that's not me, why am I reacting?
Yeah.
And then examine ourselves, and that way we don't get into the blame game, we don't get into the name-calling game, which our society seems to be doing right now, and living very shallowly.
Yes.
Well, I think that's an important part, and that's what I'd like to share with you all. Change in our society, change in your families, it's all going to start with you. I wear this little bracelet that says, if you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. So I'm encouraging you to do something from your heart today, and I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing about your heart-centered success. Thanks to Sherry, Marianne, thanks to Tremaine, to our crew here today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.